All right, we're excited to be joined here by Kirk Bohls, the Houston Chronicle, one of our favorite guests here with the team selection committee. Kirk, an interesting weekend for the Texas Longhorns. I know you've been covering them for decades. A lot of excitement going into week one with the number one ranking, and then it didn't go according to plan. What were your biggest takeaways from Texas Ohio State this weekend, and did it tell you about more about the Buckeyes or more about the Longhorns?
I would say probably more about the Longhorns but I did get a little bit more out of Ohio State's performance than I was expecting, and probably more than Steve Sarkisian was expecting. Sam, I I just thought Ohio State did a better job of reloading than Texas did. I mean, they lost 14 NFL draft picks, and you didn't see any drop off on the defensive side. Now, Texas' ineptitude had a lot to do with that, and Texas lost 12 draftees to the NFL, and both of them had about 9 starters back, but both defenses played great. That was obvious, but the difference was Texas offense just couldn't ever get anything going. They just failed to get any rhythm. Arch Manning just had a dreadful start in his first real start against legitimate competition. So those are probably the things that jumped out at me the most.
You talk about Arch Manning, obviously a lot of expectations on that name when he starts a game. What his brightest spotlight yet. Really tough environment in Columbus. How would you evaluate his performance, and where does he stand to improve the most?
He was dreadful. He was just he seemed nervous. He seemed uptight and rattled. Again, give a lot of credit to Matt Patricia, the new defensive coordinator for Ohio State, but again, he never got in his rhythm. And I would fault Steve Sarkisian a little bit for the game plan. He even said this week that he wishes he'd have run the a little bit more to get his comfort level going, and they needed a few more safe throws to like short passes to running backs and tight ends instead of the timing routes because his timing just wasn't there. Uh, if you've watched Arch at all, he's kind of the anti Quinn Ewers. Sam Quinn had started 36 games. This was Arch's third start and the first one on the road and against the defending national champion. And also, Quinn was a touch thrower, a finesse thrower, and Arch is just the opposite. He's got to learn some of that touch that Quinn Ewers had. He throws a fastball. He's like Tarek Skubal there, and he just blowing it past you. And some of the receivers couldn't handle that because he was throwing the same speed, on the 5 yard rollouts that he was on a 40-yard bomb down the field. So that's one transition he's going to have to make. And like I said, I think he was confused, Sam, by the Ohio State defense and Matt Patricia. A lot of zone coverage where they'd show 5 or 6 on the line and then back off into pass coverage. And there wasn't a ton of separation from the Texas receivers either. So, all in all, it was one of the poorest offensive game plans I've seen out of a Sark in its 4+ years.
Uh, You mentioned Sark and making adjustments, and him even talking already about possibly running the ball more and so forth. What do you think are the most immediate adjustments or lessons that he can implement? Going into San Jose State this weekend,
I think
that
he
can that'll
will.
make a difference for the team.
And they ran the ball well against Ohio State, Sam. I mean, almost 170 yards, 4.5 yards a carry. So, they really like their running back room. Quintrevian Wisner, he was third string tailback when the season started last year and ended up being 1,000 yard rusher. He was the leading returning rusher in the SEC. The only one over 1,000 yards, and then C.J. Baxter blew out his knee last August, and he's back. So I think they'll probably run the ball a little bit more, but he really wants to get Arch's confidence back, and that's going to be hugely important. So I think a lot more safe throws. Maybe he should be throwing to his new tight end, the Cal transfer, Jake Andrews, who looked really good. So I think he'll do that to keep him going. All the eyes are going to be on Arch in this offense. Like, have you come close to fixing it? And obviously, they're not playing a top five team like they were last week. And San Jose State is not a bad team. They've been back to back bowls. They back to back winning seasons, bowl games 4 out of the last 5 years, and some of them consider a Mountain West contender, and they throw the ball all over the lot. So the Texas secondary is going to get a lot of practice. But I think restoring Arch's confidence is objective number one after winning the game, of course.
And I wanted to touch on Ohio State a little bit more as well. You had remarked at how well they played, and they kind of picked up where they left off last year, especially on the defensive side of the ball. In your opinion, how good can the Buckeyes be, or where do you think they rank among the national title favorites? So, is a repeat in store?
Well, they're right in the mix there, Sam. I mean, I had them top 10, but I put them number one on my AP vote last night, and as you saw today, that they are the new number one team and taking Texas' place and earned it. They've got some training wheels on Julian Say and their redshirt freshman quarterback too, a little bit like Arch, and they had a pretty conservative game plan. They only threw 20 times, a lot of them safe throws around the line of scrimmage, a lot of quick passes to Jeremiah Smith. They couldn't run the ball in Texas. They had a lot of. I think it finished with something like 77 yards rushing, something like that. So they're going to have to get that much better. Their interior line was back mostly, but their defense is going to carry them. They lost, I think, maybe 8 starters on defense, but that defensive line was very stout. You saw the goal line stand when they stuffed Arch from the 1 yard line. That was probably the pivotal moment, in the entire game. But I think the defense is going to carry them at least for about a month while Sayan gets his feet on the ground. And obviously, you got Jeremiah Smith. You get a tremendous weapon, and Max Clare, the tight end transfer from Purdue, didn't go off against Texas, but he's a top talent who Texas also recruited. So I definitely think they're in the mix to make another national championship run, and I wouldn't rule out Texas yet either. I mean, you look at last year, Sam, the two top teams were Notre Dame and Ohio State. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois in week 2 last year, and Ohio State had 2 losses in the regular season and didn't even play for their Big Ten conference title. So, all is not lost for Texas or Clemson or Notre Dame, any of the teams that lost in opening week. But Ohio State, they're still at the top of the heap.
I wanted to ask you before we let you go about this week's FWAA awards. As you know, we've been giving out the Football Writers Association Team of the Week award and Play of the Week award. We've switched sponsors this year, so now it's the Pop Tarts Crazy Good Team of the Week, the Cheez It Crunch Time Play of the Week. One of the Plays of the Week finalists was that goal line stand that you mentioned from the Ohio State game, although the winner ended up being C.J. Daniels' one-handed touchdown catch for Miami right before the half there against Notre Dame to give them a 7 point lead going into the break. What did you make of CJ's catch, and how do plays like that help shape narrative around a team like Miami that's going into a high profile matchup like they were?
I'll tell you what I made of it. Week 1, we may have already seen the catch of the year. I mean, I don't know what his vertical is, Sam, but boy, did he climb the stairs to get to that ball. And I don't know the name of the defensive back that was playing behind him, but I think he thought it was easily overthrown. He's going up for the interception, and then for C.J. Daniels to bring that ball down, hold on to it, and I'm not saying Carson Beck got lucky, but his receiver made a play for him. And a lot of, great quarterbacks, they do that. Say, put it in the area. What's your catch radius? And that guy is over the moon with his catch radius. And that's one thing we didn't see from Texas. We didn't see any circus catches or spectacular catches like that one. But, oh, what a start. I mean, that guy's got a great future. And my eyes were popping out when I saw that play.
Now the other Football Writers Award, the Pop Tarts Crazy Good Team of the Week, went to Florida State this week for their upset win over Alabama. How impressive was that performance in your eyes, and does it change your expectations for where the Seminoles belong? I saw they were 14th in the AP poll that came out. What do you think of Florida State after a game like that?
You know what I think of them? I put them number 4 on my ballot this week, Sam, and I didn't have them ranked. And here's my comment on that, Sam. A lot of people say, well, the polls don't matter. We don't really know who's the best teams, and we don't. Okay, but my vote, I've been voting, over 30 years, and mine's always very fluid. Okay, just trust your eyeballs. I saw a great Florida State team just take Alabama apart, and that was a dominant performance. So I moved Florida State up from unranked to number 4, just like I moved Miami. I put Miami number 3. I put LSU number 2. So I reward performances that are that impressive. And for Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn and their staff, and Tommy Castellanos, saying Nick Saban's going to save him. He's going to sell a lot of T-shirts. So, and he backed it up. So I thought it was so impressive. I put him in number 5. I don't know who Florida State plays this week, but if they fall on their uh, on tea leaves or something this and lose, then I'll drop them way back. But I'm a big believer in rewarding big results, and they Florida State couldn't impress me any more than they did.
Yeah, but Florida State welcomes East Texas A&M this weekend. Former Citrus Bowl champion, actually, from back in the '50s here in Orlando, but different opponent than Alabama, but they'll be ready, I think.
Isn't that who SMU played last week? I think they beat Texas A&M. So yeah, hopefully they won't be reading their clippings and they'll take everything seriously. But yeah, they made a big step in their turnaround season. That's for sure.
Well, Kirk, we certainly appreciate you making some time to chat with us as always. It's certainly an exciting week one. More to come. We'll see what the rest of the season has in store, but we know you'll be standing by ready to report on all of it. So thanks again, Kirk.
And always great to visit with you, Sam. Take care.